What's up, everybody? Man, let me change it. Welcome to the Friday edition of Manhood Mondays. So, I did, excuse me. So I did a, I did a, I did a video on Monday for Manhood Mondays, but this one is the one that I was originally supposed to do on Monday, last Monday, and I wanted to make sure that I still did it because I think this is some good information that you guys are going to really, I think it's really going to help you. If it don't, then I was mistaken, but I think it will. Let me get this out of the way and say, tonight I'm going to be sharing some intimate details about my life, right? And so hopefully you guys will enjoy it. So anyway, I'll just get right into my notes. So welcome to Manhood Mondays. This is a series about the issues and life-changing solutions for men. All right, I created this a couple of years ago, started it, stopped it. Well, we finished that first season. Then I started the second one, stopped it. And so this now is, I'm considering this season 2. So this is season 2. So my goal is to, create these moments every Monday where we can, where I can share information with you. And then if you guys have questions, you always are, definitely free to ask. I love when you guys ask questions. Okay. It is my desire that every man would do the work to become emotionally whole and learn to love the way that God does. Now, when I say the way that God loves, what do I mean by that? So I'm talking about, when I talk about the way God loves, I'm talking about humility. I'm talking about intentionality, okay, authenticity, and I'm talking about selfless giving, right? Giving selflessly. Make sure this thing is on. Okay, good, great. I didn't have any notifications over here that I was live, but I guess it decided to do its own thing. So when I say humility, because I'm talking about the way, men loving the way God loves. So when I'm talking about humility, I'm talking about like the opposite of arrogance. Okay. I mean thinking of myself less, not necessarily thinking less of myself. Okay. So not thinking less of myself, but thinking of myself less when I'm talking about walking in humility. And then when I say intentionality, I mean loving on purpose, right? I'm trying to help men love on purpose and not just kind of, just haphazardly or passively. As a matter of fact, I don't even know if you can love passively. So if you're loving passively, you're probably not loving. Whatever you're doing passively, it's probably not love. And then intentionality also means to actively look for opportunities to express your love, right? Actively look for opportunities to express your love. When I say, excuse me, when I say authenticity, I mean to love from a genuine place and not from a place of fear or your false self. Don't love from a place of people pleasing. That's inauthentic. All right. And then when I say selfless giving, I mean giving your love without an agenda, giving your love without an expectation of a return. So that's my goal, to help men to become emotionally whole and become better lovers the way that God is. And I use God because, what better standard than the perfect standard, right? So that is, I don't know what's up with my voice. Well, I can't say I've been talking today. This is my first time talking, so maybe my voice is not warmed up, but give me a second. We'll see how this works. Okay, so tonight, as we officially kick off Manhood Monday season, I want to talk to you about unlearning what you've learned the wrong way and how to overcome the ineffective ways that you've been doing relationships. Okay, that's what I want to talk about tonight. You've heard me say this often if you've been watching me for a while. If you learn it wrong, you will live it wrong. Okay? But then that begs the question, what is the process of unlearning what you've learned, and how do I become a different man? Like, how do I grow? How do I become a different purpose, a different person? So I have a lot of men who come into my office and they want to be a better man, but oftentimes they don't know what that looks like. A lot of men come into my office at the request of their wife to be a better man, but then when we get in session, it's like they're asking me, what does a better man look like? And so the reason for that is because of what better, like how to understand better. Okay, but let me share this with you first. So last night, actually, I was watching National Geographic. Okay, so I just had a different thought, but anyway. So I was watching National Geographic, and I was watching these lions, this pride of lions, right? So the lions killed a wildebeest, but they also captured a like a baby wildebeest, and I said captured, not killed. So they took the baby wildebeest back to their cubs, and let the cubs, and these cubs were young, let the cubs kill the baby wildebeest. What was interesting to me is that, like, the baby cubs killed the baby wildebeest the same way the adults killed the adult wildebeest. Like, I mean, same technique, same everything. And so the reason that was interesting is because lions don't talk. And like, these lions hadn't been on the planet that long. How did they know how to be a lion? Like, how? That was interesting to me. Right. So the reason that they knew how to be lions already is because unlike us humans, lions live on instinct. Right. God put inside of every lion everything that they need to be a lion. The thing is, he has also put everything inside of men and women to be fully human. Like, it's already in there. The problem is, lions don't have the ability to question who they are or what they are like men do. Like, God has put it in there, but then we have a more complex mind. We have a subconscious and a conscious, and we can, like, outthink what God already put in there. It doesn't matter what context, what environment you put a lion in, they're going to act like a lion. Like, that's what they do. But the human being, who we think we are, will override who God says we're supposed to be. Okay? And I know firsthand that becoming a man is not something that happens just because we get older. Like, we don't become men just because we get older. I heard this saying, and I believe it's true. Males are born and men are made. Males are born, or boys are born, but men are made, right? We don't become men just because we get older. I know a lot of older in age men who are actually still boys inside. Okay, so when we talk about becoming a man, the idea of becoming a man has nothing to do with, getting hair on your face or getting hair on your chest. Has nothing to do with your masculinity or lack thereof. Okay, it has nothing to do with your material possessions and your financial capacity. Becoming a man has nothing to do with anything on the outside of you. It has everything to do with what's going on the inside of you. Okay? You have to believe who you are to become. So you have to become different on the inside so that you'll believe that you are who God created you to be. Does that make sense? So, So we're going through this Manhood Monday series, or this one particularly, because I want to help you guys kind of change. I wonder if I'm nervous because I'm sharing my stuff. Because I love public speaking. I love doing videos. I, I don't get nervous. I mean, I just don't. Like I could speak, depending on what the topic. Like if I know what I'm talking about, I could speak to 30,000 people in a dome and be fine. But I will admit, because I'm if me being nervous is gonna make you stop following, then let me just tell you I'm nervous, so you can go. But I don't know. That's interesting. But I'm gonna push through or it may be an attack of the enemy, because I think this is gonna be good for y'all. So I'm gonna keep going. So as I was saying, becoming a man is about changing what's on the inside and not what's on the outside. So the question then becomes, well, what do I need to change? Okay, what do I need to change in order to be this better man? You have to change who you believe you are. Right? Stop believing the negative things that your childhood has taught you about you. I was listening to Tim Ross not long ago, and he said that he was counseling someone, and after they shared their problem with him, he told them, "Oh, you're struggling with a word curse." And he's like, "A word curse?" He's like, "Yeah, you're struggling with a word curse. See, your mother told you that you'd never be anything but a failure, and or you were treated in a way where the message came across that you're not good enough, and so now you have created these self-sabotaging beliefs based on what you heard. So when we hear things like that, we call it poison. Okay, but your mom or whoever said or did whatever poisoned you over 30 years ago. But you're still struggling with those words today. So he said that's a word curse. Well, then, the question then becomes, well, how do you break a curse? Stop believing what they said or what they did. Like, stop believing the messages that you got, the limiting and negative messages you got. Stop believing them. But then start to believe what God says about you. So you got to switch the beliefs. Psalms 139:13 says, you made all the delicate inner parts of my body and knit me together in my mother's womb. That's David talking to God, like you made me. You made all the intricate parts of me. Okay. But then when you drop down to verse 17, it says, how precious are your thoughts of me, O God. They can't be numbered. Like, I can't even count them. So there's a whole lot more that God says in his word about you and like who you are. But what if you just believed the last thing that he just said? Like, what if you just believe that God, Yeshua HaMashiach, he is thinking about you. He is thinking great thoughts about you. And the thoughts are so great and so numerous that you can't even count them. Like, if you just believe that and you embraced it, I don't believe that you'd still be able to hold on to the other negative beliefs that you have about you. If you could let go of the childhood beliefs and embrace what God says, you would be way further along in your life than you trying to figure this stuff out on your own, right? Trying to conjure up self-esteem and trying to conjure up value and trying to have your wife or girlfriend or friends or whatever validate you, okay? All right. So let's talk about what happened in childhood. All right, let's talk about what happened in childhood. And not only what happened in childhood, excuse me, but how to unlearn some of the self-sabotaging beliefs about yourself and how to replace them with better beliefs. Okay? So what happened to you? When we say, what happened to you? What happened to you? What happened in your childhood that now still affects the way that you show up in relationships and your identity as a man? By the way, just because we're talking about childhood stuff, I always give this disclaimer. Just because we're talking about childhood stuff does not mean that we are judging your parents. Okay, not trying to judge your parents at all. Your parents did what they knew how to do. Whether they loved you or didn't love you, that's not what we're trying to answer in this particular episode, right? So I'm not concerned with I'm not concerned with or talking about how much your parents loved you. Okay, so don't think that we're judging your parents when we talk about what we're talking about tonight, right? I simply want you to understand your experience so that we can trace back our negative behaviors and beliefs and become better. That's the goal, right? So now when I say what happened to you, let me say this disclaimer too. When I say what happened to you, don't think that that is only for men who were obviously abused as kids. Like, just because you were not beaten or just because you weren't molested or anything like that doesn't mean that your childhood was great. It doesn't mean that you do not still have things, major things that you need to work through and get over. Okay? So that's why I want you to keep listening, because a lot of people think that. Like, I've heard people say, my childhood wasn't great, but I survived it. And what I say is, childhood is not something that you should have to survive. Like, you survive a car accident, you survive an animal attack, but childhood, you don't survive childhood. Okay. When I went to therapy, and let me say when I went to therapy to do my major work, because I went to therapy maybe I was in my 20s, but I only went to one session. I just wanted to see what it was. And it was helpful. I don't remember anything about it because it was so long ago. But when I went to therapy at 43, I had no idea. When I say no idea, trust, I had no idea that my childhood was abusive. Like, nobody could have convinced me of that. The reason I didn't know that my childhood was abusive is because, number one, I knew my parents never had any ill will towards me. Like, they did not intend on harming me. I knew they were not trying to hurt me. Even as I became an adult, like when I look back, yeah, they weren't trying to harm me. Some things I didn't like, but I never thought they was trying to harm me. And then number two, the reason why I thought my childhood was just regular, normal, average, is because I was fine. Like, I thought I was fine, right? I was handsome, smart, educated, lover of God. Like, there was nothing wrong with me as far as I could tell, right? But then after therapy and learning how much children need when they're being raised, and also understanding how fragile a child's mind is, I was able then to see how what happened in my childhood had a direct correlation to the beliefs that I had developed about myself and how I did relationships. Direct correlation. Like, it wasn't even like something to figure out. Like, you remember in school you had the I'm about to tell my age probably because I don't know when the last time. But so, like, in the spelling book, they had words, and I can't remember if it was sentences or whatever, but they had words. But the word was covered up by this like red, pinkish camouflage, whatever, and you had to use this red see-through film paper to put over it so you could see the word. Y'all remember that? That's just random, just came to my mind. But it was kind of like that when I went to therapy. I couldn't see it. It was always there. I couldn't see it. But when I went to therapy and I put that red revelation over my life, I could see it plain as day. I was like, wow, that's quite interesting, right? So let me tell you why. The reason I'm sharing my story tonight is because I believe that my story is similar to a lot of guys, at least a lot of men that come into my office. I think it's similar to a lot of men, and also too, I want to be as helpful as I can. And sometimes I recognize that being in the position that I am in, sometimes we lose sight of the fact that, hey, the person that is teaching us or pastoring us or whatever, the person in authority is a human being too, and they've been through stuff. And sometimes knowing that helps us to relate to them better. All right. So hopefully you'll be able to see how you can connect. Like, it won't be everything, but how you can connect with this, especially if you did not feel like your childhood warranted therapy, right? And so you got negative traits, but you think, well, I mean, it's just who I am. We hopefully after this, that'll be changed. So let me tell you I'm gonna go through my story, and I'm gonna read a little bit more because I want to make sure I know my story, right? But I wrote it out, so I'm not rambling. So here's my story. So I was born to a teenage mom. Okay. Now I cannot imagine what it would be like to be a high school kid with a kid. Like, yeah, that's crazy to me. I was 21 when I had my first child, and that was too young, in my opinion. But 17, So when I was growing up, I was invisible. Okay. Now, I don't mean that I had superpowers, right? I'm not crazy. I mean that my parents didn't see me. Okay. My mom used me to meet her emotional needs, and my dad pretty much ignored me. Okay. My mother loved me as best she could, but my mom herself showed up to adulthood love deficient. Like, she was love deficient. So her trying to get her emotional needs met through this child, like, it makes sense. I'm not saying that I agree with it, but I understand. Like, anybody taught this baby how to love? She showed up love deficient herself, and now she has this new child. Like, I get it. I understand. Okay. And the thing is, if I'm honest, I did not feel unimportant or unloved when I was a kid. I'm not talking about now. I'm talking about back then when I was going through. I did not feel unimportant. I did not feel unloved. Keyword feel. All right. And I felt unimportant to my dad, right? Because we never developed a real relationship. Okay. So, but overall, in my childhood, I don't remember feeling unloved. Right. And this is an important point, because some of you did not feel unloved in your childhood. But the question is, I know you didn't feel unloved, but did you feel full of love? That's a different question. I did not feel full of love either. So I can say that. But as I'm going, so I say that to say, I did not recognize the lack that I was experiencing. Okay. And as far as being full of love, well, I'm a kid. How am I supposed to know that I'm supposed to be like, so I was clueless, right? So here I am as a love deficient child. And the thing about children is that we translate love, or they translate love. I'm not a child anymore. But the thing about children, they translate love through attention. So for them, attention equals love. Okay. That's how a child translates love. So the more attention you give a child, the more love they feel. The more loved they feel. But what if the attention that the child gets is negative attention? Then the child will develop what we call a twisted idea of love. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what happened to me. So between the ages of 5 and 8, I don't remember exactly when. It wasn't for 3 years when I say between 5 and 8. Just somewhere up in there. I can't determine the exact age, but I was molested by a family member. But the thing is, I never had trauma surrounding the molestation because I enjoyed it. I didn't know I was being molested. As a matter of fact, I did not. So I said that was between the ages of 5 and 8. I did not learn that what had happened was molestation until I was about 44. I just never saw it that way. A colleague asking me questions helped me see it that way. And I was just like, wow. And then, some other domino effects came after that, but I had no idea, right? I remember thinking that me and my family member had a special bond, right? I thought that we were together at between the ages of 5 and 8. I thought we had something special, right? This little boy mistakenly believed that he was special because someone was interested in him. It's the only reason I developed that belief, because somebody was interested in me, right? The unfortunate consequence of this attention was that the little boy inappropriately fused love and sex together, right? Tell my age again. I don't know how many of you remember this movie called The Fly. The one I saw, because I think even the one I saw was a remake, but with Jeff, I don't know if it's Goldberg or Bloom, however you say his name, from Alien with Will Smith, not Alien, but Independence Day. So in the movie, basically, scientist, he wants to teleport, right? And so I'm gonna give you a short version. So he wants to teleport himself from one pod to another pod. He has these 2 pods, transportive pods, whatever. And so he's working on it, he can't get it to work. And then he has a situation with a girl. I don't know if she cheated or she dumped him or something. And so then he goes to his lab, he's mad, and he's not supposed to be running the experiment, but he decides to run the experiment anyway. So he gets in there, but there's a fly that gets in there with him. So then when he does the transportation, he goes across, transports to the other side, he comes out feeling amazing. And what the computer did was fuse the man and the fly together, so they became one. It was more dramatic in my head when I thought of it earlier about the fly. But in the same way, this little boy fused love and sex together, right? Now, I'm not going to talk about sex necessarily tonight, but it's Manhood Monday. So eventually I will talk about sex down the road in the coming weeks, right? So anyway, I became very sexual minded around that time, like between the ages 5, 8, really, I guess from that point on, I became very sexually minded, right? And when I say sexually minded, I still didn't know anything about sex, right? I didn't know how sex worked, but I was sexually minded, okay? As a matter of fact, I remember in fifth grade, that means I'm 10. I remember staring at this girl's butt. She had a big butt. She wasn't fat though, but she had a big butt. And at that time, there were no rap videos out. There was no, as far as I knew, no societal norm that, hey, that's the kind of woman that men like. I was not having sexual thoughts because I didn't know nothing about sex. But I do know something in me subconsciously would not stop staring at this girl's butt. I could see it as clear as day. She was moving a desk. I may have been the last day of school or something. She was moving a desk. And I just stopped and stared at 10. Fast forward to 19. And I cheated on my girlfriend, right? It's the very first time I ever cheated. And the guilt almost destroyed me, right? But, I cheated. The guilt was so much, I eventually ended up telling on myself, right? We got through that. Me and my girlfriend, we got through that, got pregnant, left school, we was in school, left school, came home, tried to start a family. Well, we did start a family, right? So we started doing life together, right? We had my daughter, I was 21. And then throughout the marriage to my children's mom, I got caught cheating several times. We stayed married for 8 years, and I kept cheating. Up until that point, I did not, I honestly didn't have a clue about the pain I was causing. When I say I was clueless, I was clueless. I did not know the pain I know she was angry, but I didn't know the pain until she cheated. So then when my ex-wife cheated on me, Up until that point, I had never felt pain like that. Crushed me. But as bad as it hurt, you know what it didn't do? Stop me from being stupid. Yeah, I was what you call stuck on stupid. Like if stuck on stupid was a person back then, it would have been me. Cause I kept on doing foolishness. Cause I was still a little boy, but I didn't know it. Right. So eventually we ended up getting divorced. And then once we got divorced, man, I went completely buck wild. Like you can probably imagine. I was 28. I went buck wild. Okay. I didn't know it at the time, but I became addicted to sex and pornography. Right. I only realized that in hindsight because I didn't know that, like you can get addicted to sex. You can get addicted to porn. I don't know about that. I wasn't nowhere near a therapist or whatever. So in hindsight, I look back like, man, you had an addiction, right? So eventually I matured, got to the place to where I wasn't always cheating. I wasn't always doing whatever, right? And so, just dating different people. But what never really went away until after I did therapy, what never really went away was, so I wouldn't cheat necessarily, but when the relationship get difficult or, like if I feel like they're not accepting me, then I start looking for distractions, i.e. women, right? And sometimes the distractions, sometimes I wouldn't cheat. And then sometimes I would, right? But I at least matured. I'm calling it maturity. Matured to the place to where I just, cheated when, well, that was my wife calling. I'm like, is it a problem? Cheating, I only cheating when I wasn't happy, as if that was better, right? So anyway, from the time my kid's mom till I met my ex-wife, let's call her AB. It was 12 years. Throat is still doing what it's doing. So when I met AB, I was about 40. And we were friends, but I could tell that she was really into me. Okay, I had been single for 12 years, meaning not in a committed relationship. Like I dated and stuff, but I pretty much had been single for 12 years. So I met her. I was almost 40. We were friends, but she was really into me. I didn't feel the same. But at 40, I'm like, man, I don't want to grow old by myself, right? She's a good woman. I'll learn to love her, right? And in my mind, that was a good choice, right? So I'm like, I'll learn to love her later. Long story short, we got married, never got the marriage off the ground, divorced, okay? That took about a span of like 5 years. That was a span about 5 years. But in between meeting AB and us divorcing, something happened. No, I didn't meet Jesus. I already knew Jesus, right? I didn't have a life-threatening incident happen. What happened was therapy. She and I had a conversation, and from that conversation, I said, man, let me go talk to somebody. Now, when I went to therapy, I didn't know what I would find because I didn't think that I was jacked up, right? So I didn't know what I would find. But I knew something was off because of the conversation that she and I had, right? And so when I go to therapy, and it was at that point when I realized not only was I had issues I need to work out, but I was broken like into little bitty pieces. Like from what I learned about me, I'm like, how are you even operating out here in the real world? Like what's going on? Okay. So let me go back because I think I may have missed a part that I really want to share with you guys. Let's see. I talked about that. Okay. I hadn't got to it yet. My bad. Hadn't got to it yet. All right. So So this is good. And so before I go to this next part, let me recap. Okay, let me recap before I go to this next part, because especially with all of my fumbling and stumbling today, forgive me. I'm sorry. I may redo this for my I'm probably am going to redo this for my podcast on Apple, and it won't be like this, right? But because I'm stumbling and fumbling, I'm going to give a recap so that you can. I want to do as much as I can to make sure you make these connections that I'm going to try to make to help you. Okay, I don't want my stumbling to be a stumbling block for you. All right. So here's a recap. I experienced emotional neglect as a child. Okay, I was molested, and I learned to mistake sex and really sex. I was gonna say sex and attention, but I mistakenly I connected sex and love together. Okay, I developed the belief that my value is connected to my ability to satisfy women. And that wasn't just sexually, just period, right? My job is to take care of women. I developed that belief. I cheated a lot. Well, that's 4. I cheated a lot, right? Divorced the mother of my 3 children, became addicted to porn and sex. And then eventually, I got married again, not to give my love away, but because I didn't want to be alone, right? So that's a recap of all of my dysfunctional behavior, right? And the thing is, looking at that dysfunctional behavior, just isolated by itself, you would just assume, you know what? So either he's a dog, or he just needs to grow up, or he's just a man. And that's probably the one that most people land on. He's just a man. He's deeper than that. Okay. So now I shared all of that to give you some reference points as I talk about some of the common issues that we men have. Okay. And I especially wanted to illustrate, for those of you who think your childhood was fine, that you can still have major issues going on inside of you while on the outside you look like a success story. Okay. So I wanted to make sure that I illustrate that. So what did I learn wrong that I need to unlearn? Number 1, I developed the belief that I cannot speak up for myself. How did I learn that? Because no one ever asked me my thoughts. Nobody ever asked me what I thought, what I feel, right? I developed the belief that I developed the belief that what I want has to take a back seat to what everybody else need. Okay? Being my mother's friend taught me that how I feel is not that important. You got to be concerned about how other people feel, and specifically how women feel. But then once I did the work, I learned that I have the right to express myself without the fear of being rejected. And I learned that my feelings matter as much as the next person, even when they're not accurate, right? I had to do the work to be able to. So if you notice, the work to be able to communicate who I am wasn't a communication issue. So a lot of wives bring their husbands to therapy thinking that he can't communicate. You know, he don't open up. He don't talk. He hold everything in. It's not a communication issue, right? Mine, I just told you, mine came from the emotional neglect, not never having my person validated as a kid. So I showed up like I didn't have that self-expression in there. Number 2, I developed a belief. Oh, wait. I want to tell you this story. It's not in my notes, but I want to tell you a story about how much I did not speak up for myself. So when I was in elementary school, you would go on, how you go on field trips? So we were going on a field trip. I think we were going to the Texas Battleship. So I'm in what grade? I'm in 3rd grade. So I'm in 3rd grade. They send the permission slips home. I take mine home and I lose it. So, they saying you can't go on the field trip until you bring the permission slip back. So days go by, and then the day of the field trip, my mother writes me a note giving me permission to go on the field trip. And I got my lunch and everything. So I get to the classroom, and the teacher says, it's early in the morning, teacher says, okay, so everybody who don't have a permission slip, or everyone who did not turn in their permission slip, come get in line. And so I got in line. I ain't know, I'm just following directions. Okay, I'm going to take y'all to Miss whoever room. Y'all can stay here while we go on the field trip. So my heart sunk, but I ain't say anything. So we go out of the classroom. We in the hallway. We lined up, and just so happened, maybe it was God looking out for this little boy. She just randomly, she was walking off. Then she turned around. She said, "Okay, and y'all, none of y'all have a note from your parents or nothing." And then I said, "I do." She looked at me. She said, "Boy, what are you doing? Why you didn't give it to me? Go get in that line over there." That's how afraid I was to speak up for me. If she had not asked that question, I'd have been sitting in the classroom instead of on the battleship, because I was afraid to be me. Well, I didn't even know who I was at the time, but that wasn't a communication issue, right? That was an identity issue. All right, so number 2, I developed the belief that I had to manipulate women into liking me, because otherwise, I wasn't good enough. I remember when I first started getting attention from girls, really like in high school, I was shocked. Like, I've always been good looking, and I don't say that from an arrogant place. Like, you may not think that's fine. I'm just making a point. I've always, looked decent. Put it that way. That's the better for you. But I didn't know it though. I thought I was ugly. So when girls started showing interest, I was like, me? But it still never clicked that, hey, I just like you as a person. So I learned from my childhood, though, not from women, that I need to be manipulative to get you to like me, because I didn't have the belief inside that you would just like me for me, right? And this belief actually was the result of a lot of things, okay? It was a result of the emotional neglect, lack of attention from both of my parents, and I believe the inappropriate fusion of love and sex. I believe all those came into play with that belief of, man, I can't just be me. I'm gonna have to trick them into liking me. And the tricking, I got good at it. It wasn't, you didn't feel manipulated. You just thought I was a good guy. And I was, but I was pretending to get what I want. But after I did the work, I realized that I could actually be authentically me and still be accepted. But it took work for me to get to that belief, right? I realized that all I had to offer, and today, all I have to offer is Clifton. And if Clifton is not enough for them or whoever, then they're going to have to find somebody else, because Clifton is all I got to offer. So the same thing for you. I think I told another guy that I told 2 guys that this week. You're trying to be a people pleaser and be whatever she wants and needs so she won't leave or so she won't be upset. The reality is, if you being you is not good enough, ain't nothing else you can do. That's all you got is you. Because whoever you're pretending to be, that means she's not loving you. And if you ever show up, she's going to be like, who is this? So, do the work. Here's the third thing. I developed the twisted belief that it was my responsibility to make sure that my woman was happy. It's my responsibility to make sure she's happy, right? I would spend my last, go out of my way, overextend myself, and pretty much be whatever my lady needed me to be. Now, that may sound good, right? You said, well, what's wrong with that? Women's like, what's wrong with that? I want that in a man. Yeah, but it came from a selfish place. Not only did it come from a selfish place, but I didn't even know it was coming from a selfish place, which I believe makes it more dangerous. Okay. I actually did not find out until way later on in life that one of the main reasons I could not keep a lady is because I wasn't being authentic. And they could sense that. You could not have convinced me at the time that I was not being authentic, but I didn't know, right? Dr. Mark said, you don't know what you don't know. Not only was I unknowingly inauthentic, but I was very emotionally immature. And so when I didn't get my way, I acted like a kid. But me acting like a kid, number one, I didn't know I was acting like a kid. I just know it's just how I acted, right? I had nobody in my life saying, hey, young man, you're acting like a child. Like I can do the brothers that come into my office. I had nobody to do that for me. So I just thought it was just my normal behavior. I didn't know that I was being immature, right? But then after I did the work, I realized that I had spent my whole adult life, from 18, I spent my whole adult life trapped in the prison of codependence. That's the thing that blew my mind when I went to therapy, right? I had never heard of codependence when I went to therapy. So when the therapist suggested to me to read Facing Codependence by Pia Melody, I kind of like brushed it off. Okay, I don't know what that is. I'm not I thought it had something to do with alcoholics or something. I'm like, I don't do alcohol, so like I don't have an alcoholic family, so yeah, that's I'm not feeling that. But eventually, I decided to read it. Like one day, I decided to read it, and like I was, because I remember, I think it was a Thursday. I had therapy on Wednesday, and then on Thursday, I started reading the book. Guys, I was in the intro, and it felt like this lady, the author, had interviewed me, and then wrote a book about my life. Like that's how I was. Like, what the hell? I was like, what? It detailed my life. Like, you don't know me. So it did two things for me. Number one, it showed me how broken I was, but also it gave me hope, because if she wrote a book about this, if there's a book about this out there, that means I can't be the only one, because she didn't write it about me. But it also means that then there must be help, because if folk are writing about it and talking about it, I can get help. But yeah, that was eye-opening. I tell people this, when I read that book, it was like, imagine a dark house, and then imagine somebody just running through a dark house, just flipping on lights, right? That's what it felt like was going on in my mind as I was reading. So the thing about me showing up to adulthood, I did not know that I was not ready for adult relationships like I was longing for. I had no clue. Nobody told me. I did not know, right? But it's after reading that book is when I realized I did not survive my childhood, right? Not the real me. No, the real me got stuck in childhood, and I had to rescue my lost inner child, right? I also realized when I did the work connected to this belief, I also realized that I had very weak boundaries, which is actually a symptom of codependence, right? All the time that I was people-pleasing, I thought that I was being a good Christian. But come to find out, I was being a boundaryless Christian, okay? Now, there are a ton more of beliefs that I've developed, big and small, but I just want to share one more with you, right? Because there's we can't do all the beliefs. I think we'll be here till I don't know, but let me give you this last one. Let's see. Oh yeah. So this belief that I developed had a major impact on my life, but I didn't realize it until like hindsight. So I did my whole life, and then I got the revelation that, hey, there's a dysfunction here. Oh, then once I realized it, and then I look back over my life and I'm like, holy crap, that has impacted everything. Tell you what it is. So because of my non-existent relationship with my dad, I developed a distrust for men. Yep. Now here's the thing. I didn't know that I didn't trust men. But let me explain to you what I mean. So three things happened that created this subconscious, low vibrating belief of not trusting men. Subconscious, low vibrating. I couldn't even know. I didn't know it was there. Low vibrating belief of distrust of men. So here's the three things. Number one, as a child, there was never a man that showed genuine interest in me. Never a man that showed genuine, not my dad, not a grandfather, uncle, nobody. And I'm primarily talking about between the ages of 0 to 8, those first 8 years, right? So if any of my uncles ever see this, I'm not saying that you didn't love me. I'm not saying that. But I'm saying in those first 8 years, I did not have a significant male in my life who made me an important part of their world. Can I say it that way? Right? So that's the first thing that happened. Then number two, I got a lot of attention from my mom when she was sad or depressed because she needed somebody to talk to. So that sent the message to me that my role in life is to help people with their problems, which ironically is what I do. Yeah. Side note to that. Sometimes God will allow hard and difficult things to happen in your life because he plans to use that to prepare you for the assignment that he has already set aside for you. Right? That's exactly what happened to me. Like, I had no desire to be a therapist. Like, when people say, what'd you want to be when you grow up? This wasn't on the list. I ain't know nothing about no therapist. As a matter of fact, I couldn't think of any. I cannot think of anything I wanted to be as a kid other than loved. Now I just realize why I'm nervous. I think you can't prove me different based on what I'm about to say. But anyway, I think God may have made me nervous. Why? Because you need to get this message. And if I was in my normal, calm self, going through my childhood stuff, I probably would have broke down. And y'all wouldn't have got this message. Because I've said some things in here that I just kind of just graze over, but those things were painful. I had another note in here when I was talking about my dad. I put the note, but I didn't say it to you guys. I miss my dad. My dad died in 2019, right before the pandemic of 2020. We never developed a solid relationship. We were moving towards that, and he left, right? So, that's what I'm attributing the nervousness to. God's plan. All right. So that's the second thing. Let me, because I didn't flow with it. I'm gonna recap. Okay. The first thing that happened was no man showed interest in me. Interest in me. The second thing that happened, I got a lot of attention from my mom when she was sad and depressed, which gave me the message that it's my responsibility to make people feel better, to help them with their problems. Okay, that's just a belief that this child developed. And then the third thing that happened was the molestation, which caused me to fuse love and sex together, right? So that means that all of my life, while I was being promiscuous, I was actually looking for love. I really was, right? But when you're young, you think, well, I'm just being a young man, and folk accept it and explain it that way. But no, it wasn't. Sex was good, but it was not about sex, right? So anyway, these three experiences caused me to develop this belief about myself and a distrust of men. Let me tell you how I made the connection about the distrust. Let me tell you how I came to this revelation. Because remember, I said, all my life it has impacted me, but I didn't realize it until I saw it, and then I looked back like, man, that's been there the whole time. So let me tell you what happened. There was this guy named Dr. Green, right? I met him at one of our Bible studies, and I don't remember how we got to like talking on a more personal level, but I remember being blown away by his mind and by the way he knew the Bible. Like when he read scripture, he literally read it in Hebrew. He read in the original language. I was sitting next to him in church one time. He had his iPad, and he was reading. I think he was preaching that Sunday, but he was reading, the Bible, and I'm like, what is that? Little squiggly lines. That's how the brother reads. Like I was really impressed by him. So anyway, we became cool, and then like it was fine. But then at one point, like he would check on me. We just see how I'm doing. Hey, just checking on you, see how you doing, how things going. And he didn't want anything. And I'm like, that's weird. Okay. Happened a couple more times, and then I was like, wait a minute. Is he gay? Like, So I sat there and I wondered, and I thought about that. And honestly, I wasn't sure until he got married, right? When he got married, I was like, okay, well, cool. He ain't gay. Like, obviously, I never asked him and said nothing, right? But okay, he not gay. It just felt weird to me. But then I meet another guy. So this time, this is a therapist, so we become colleagues, right? And we talking back and forth over time or whatever. Then we develop a close bond, and so he too randomly check on me. Hey, just checking on you, seeing how things going, how's the business going, or whatever. And here come this question again. I'm like, wait, hold up, is he gay? And then it hit me. The reason I question if these men were gay is because I had developed the belief that the only reason someone would be interested in me is for sex. Think about it. The most attention I got was sexual attention. The flip side of that is my dad gave me no attention. Remember, children translate love from attention. So with these men showing me attention, the only thing I could conclude is, are you gay? Like, why are you interested in me? Like, I'm not anybody. This is not what I thought, but I can give you the subconscious thought in hindsight. Why would you be interested in somebody like me? Why would you be like, I'm just Clifton. I'm just like, I walk funny. I got all these issues, right? I just didn't believe in me, right? Because why? I wasn't good enough. That's the subconscious belief. And so questioning whether or not these men were gay really kind of helped me realize you have a distrust of men, because you can't have, well, back then, not now. Like if someone was interested in you, like interested in being friend, I use the word interested, like I'm not gay. Okay. I'm using the word interested in the literal meaning of the word. Like, I'm interested in getting to know you. Why? Because you're a human being and you're interesting. Like, I'm interested in getting to know Deion Sanders. It's on my bucket list, because I believe he is a man. I believe he's since I opened my mouth, I believe he is a good picture of manhood. I like his discipline. I like his mindset. I like his confidence. I know a lot of people think it's arrogance, but I like his confidence. So Deion Sanders and Dr. Myron Golden, the two folk that I want to spend some time with before I leave the planet. All right, that was just for free. I in my notes. So in my subconscious mind, I did not trust these brothers, right? Or I learned that I did not trust men, right? So here's the thing. Well, let me say this first. If I had, because this may not be a question for you, but as I was writing, a question came to me, and it wasn't my question because I already know the answer, but I'm going to just give it to you in case it was someone else's question. So I had childhood friends. I had guys, guys as friends when I was growing up. Now, if any of my childhood friends would randomly call me, like if they would start like calling, checking on me now, I'm not going, well, now don't count because I'm over that. But back then, when that happened, if they had checked them, I would not have thought that about them. Why? Because I know they're not gay. Like these were new people, right? But I remember. So when I say that, it sabotaged my whole life, let me tell you about that. So I remember going to the movies to see the movie called Brothers. You remember the movie Brothers? It's an old movie now with what's that boy name? The yellow boy? So Morris Chestnut, Shamar, and I forgot who else. But anyway, I went to see the Brothers, and I sat in the theater. I watched it by myself because I didn't have a date. Right? I would go to the movies by myself if I couldn't find a female to go on a date with me. So I'll go by myself. So anyway, I went and I'm sitting there, and my eyes get watery. Why? Because I realized, not because the movie was amazing, and my eyes got watery on the part where they was playing basketball. So it wasn't that the movie was moving, but I started to think about my longing and my desire to have close male friendships and hadn't been able to do that, right? So that's how much I wanted my own group of homeboys, but I did not connect with men. And you know what I thought? I thought I did not connect with men because I was into God so much, because I was so churchy. That ain't true. It was me and how I saw the world and my suspicion of men that I did not know I had. And because I was love deficient and looking for love in women, all of my focus and attention and energy really went to that, when it really should have been on me becoming a better me. Right? So I want to reiterate something real quick. When I was with my children's mom, why did I cheat so much? Like why did I cheat so much when I was, in my early 20s and I guess late 20s? Because I was love deficient. I had the internal belief that I was not good enough. I had no boundaries. I was emotionally immature, and I had no self-discipline, right? I don't say that as an excuse at all, right? But I was emotionally immature. So here's the thing about children. Children are egocentric. They believe the world revolves around them, okay? So when you are an emotionally immature adult, you're going to operate the same way. You operate as if you are the center of the world, okay? So when I was trying to fill this void inside of me in my early years, my early 20s, whatever, I wasn't thinking about her at all. It was all about me. And I share that to say, so women think that, whenever a man cheat, it's just because, he's trifling and he's a dog. Well, the behavior is doggish. The behavior is trifling. But most of the times, it has little to do with me wanting to be a dog and more about the little boy inside, following his passions and trying to fix this feeling of not good enough. Again, it's not an excuse. It's not right. I'm not justifying it at all. I'm just saying, I'm saying two things to be clear. Number one, if your husband or man has cheated on you, it has nothing to do with you. Even if they said, I did this because that's a lie. It's all about them. And then number two, cheating is not always because I just want a new body. I just want some new sex. Sometimes that is it. But a lot of times, especially when you're older, it's something deeper, right? It ain't a sexual thing, which is why, as a wife, you trying to fix all this stuff about you, fix your hair, lose weight, treat him kinder. That stuff is not going to keep him from cheating. There's nothing you can do. He has to do it. Okay? He has to become a better man, a different man, in order to walk out the vows that he signed up for. So I shared all of this with you to show you that the issues you have in your life, and the relationship problems that you're dealing with are bigger than you having a high sex drive, right? It's bigger than you not liking to talk. It's bigger than you just get angry. I mean, people just get on your nerves. Like, it's bigger than that. The people who broke you are not coming back to fix you, right? It's up to you to do the work to become a better you. I'm going to conclude with this. So I grew up in church, okay? But even though I grew up in church, I've been in church all my life, I did not completely yield my life to God until I got in this marriage. Like 50, that's 43 years. 43 years I've been in church. I've been walking with God. And I didn't fully yield my life to Christ until I got in this marriage. I spent most of my life claiming to live for God, but actively living for me. And I had no idea. I'm telling you, I had no idea I was doing that. There has never, ever, never, ever, never, there has never been a time in my life where I had the thought, I'm not going to be all God wants me to be. I've never had that thought. I have never had the thought, I'm only going to grow to a certain level of spiritual maturity. I have always, ever since I was introduced to God, I have always wanted to truly please God. But the thing that I was not aware of was how the enemy works. See, Satan could care less if you claim to be Christian. He don't care about that. He doesn't care. He doesn't care if you go to church every Sunday and can quote the Bible like T.D. Jakes. So he does not care. Satan doesn't care about your religious activities and how many things on your agenda that you got to do that are churchy. He don't care. The thing he cares about is making sure that you never live what you say you believe about God. You can talk about it all you want, but he don't ever want you to live it. And so what he does, if you got a vice, mine was women for a long time. He just used that to keep me distracted, eyes off. So I'm going to church every Sunday. Up until the pandemic, if I missed the Sunday, like, it was rare. And still was disconnected from God and was clueless. Let me say, I'm not going to say disconnected from God, but I wasn't living in the fullness of God. I was more carnal than spiritual. What is carnal? So carnal is a Christian, someone who is saved, but they live as if they're not. So a Christian who lives according to the world, that's carnal, right? That's how I live. Fellas, the reason I'm sharing this is because I've wasted a lot of my life and a lot of energy chasing desires and pleasures. I really have. And at 50 years old, I have come to realize that the way God says do life is the best way to do life. That's what I've learned, right? I know that if it hadn't been for all of God's blessings over my life, man, I don't know where I would be. I don't even want to think about it. If I think about it too long, if it hadn't been for God on my side, I don't know where I would be. And ever since I completely yielded my life to Christ, I've had more peace inside. See, my marriage is what it is today, not perfect, right? So when I say it is what it is today, we don't have a 20-year marriage. We got a 5-year marriage because we ain't been married 20 years. But it is really, really good compared to what it used to be in the beginning, right? But my marriage is what it is today because I decided to trust God's way over my way. And I'm sharing that with you because I can only be me. And for me, Clifton, and my house, we're going to serve the Lord. And that's what I'm encouraging you to do. And like I said the other day, I understand that everybody don't want that. I understand that everybody's not, I want that God stuff. I'm with you, but that's what I'm going to do. So coming to this channel to hear encouragement, I'm going to give you the psychological stuff I have, but ultimately I'm going to point you to God. Yeah. Because here's the thing. I'm a living witness that therapy without God will only take you so far, right? I've tried to do life my way, and I've tried to do life my way and God's way, which was my way. You can't do life your way and God's way. God is all in or nothing. So both of those ways were my way. But now, today, I echo what David said in Psalms 119, verse 67. He said, before I was afflicted, I went astray. But now, like if I was preaching, I'd say, raise your hand and say, but now. But now, I keep your word. And that is all Mary had a little lamb, right? So I hope this was helpful for you. Apologize for my stumbling. If you watch me, it's not my norm. But I do believe, I really do believe that that was something that came over me so I can get through this, because this is some heavy stuff. And even though I've been delivered from things, I'm still a human being. Like my dad's still gone. I can't, and that's the thing about you. You can't, none of us can. Whatever was stolen in childhood, you can't get it back. So crying, the idea of crying over spilled milk, crying over what has already happened only delays let me be clear. Not crying over what has happened, but being stuck because of what happened only prevents you from being the best you in the future. That's not God's plan for your life. I remember when I read in the Bible that so Saul was king, and then Saul got fired. God fired him. And then Samuel, who really liked Saul, he was crying. And then God was like, sir, hey, prophet of mine, like, how long are you going to be crying over this? Like, how long are you going to be crying over the choice that I already made? Look, I already chosen a new king. Go to Jesse's house and anoint him. Like, you still crying over that? Don't. And I'm just saying, I know the issues that we go through are heavy a lot of times, but you can overcome it. Here's the last thing I'm gonna say. This just came to my mind. I know this is a channel. This can go all over the world. I get that. It may not go nowhere, but I don't know. But still, there's something I want to say. I want to say some specific things that relates to a couple of people that I know for sure, but I'm sure it would relate to a lot of other men. But I'm gonna say this: you're overemphasizing. Is emphasization a word? I need to look that up because that's what I wanted to say. Your overemphasization. That is not a word. I don't believe that's a word. Anyway, the way that you see sex as the main thing and you got to have it or she don't love you, I'm telling you, that's dysfunctional, and you want to fix that, right? Just so what happened in your childhood sets you up to seek love in all the wrong places, but also the wrong way, right? You got introduced to porn early and you were abandoned. And I know more than that happened, but that's a clear, remember I had the red film thing. I was talking about that. This is as clear as day like that. It's an obvious connection. Abandonment, porn, the overemphasizing of sex. If you don't get over that, you will not reach a certain level of happiness on this planet. It's because God didn't design us that way. We're designed to thrive on love, but you've mistakenly, like I did, connected love and sex together, and they're not connected together like that. They're just not. And then The other thing I want to say is uh, don't be afraid to admit you don't know what you're doing. It's life. What I've learned is that the times when I notice people, okay, I want to be like them. And I start doing that. After a while, I realize I was doing it better than this myself. Or, oh, this ain't that deep. I actually could have came up with this myself. So the point I'm making is do the work, right? None of us know. I remember I was a single father of 3, right? Because I ended up getting my kids. I didn't know what I was doing. I had never been a parent before. Never been a parent of a daughter. Never been a parent of, I didn't know what I was doing. So what I'm telling you is that's life. Don't beat yourself up because you don't know how to be a man or you don't know how to be a father. Get over the pity party, put the candles out and learn, grow. You can become better, but you got to do the work. You first got to look in the mirror and say, hey, you know what? I don't think I'm being authentic, and this is not who God wants me to be. Let me find out what he has for me. And my prayer and my desire for you is that you get there before 50. That's my prayer and my desire for you. Because you may not have another man to speak into your life like I didn't. I arrived at this place, or I believe it took me so long to get my work done because I didn't have another man in my life saying, hey, check that. But you have me, and I'm telling you, again, through all of my stumbling and fumbling and, if you want to hear me, speak eloquent words, I'm sure I got a video on there somewhere where I just nailed it, right? But I just don't want you to miss the message because, I'm human. I've been thinking about this message all week and been looking forward to it all week. And so, I hope it blessed you. So anyway, I don't know if I have any questions or comments. I don't see any questions. So here's the last thing I'm going to just tell you. If you're married, next week, I start the Communication and Conflict Challenge on Monday at 6 o'clock. If you have not signed up for that, I strongly encourage you. It's going to be really good. Teach you how to communicate effectively and resolve conflict faster, right? It's a 5-day challenge for so it's 5 days for less than 1 hour with me. Way less than 1 hour with me doing therapy. And you're probably going to get way more. Well, I know you're going to get way more than you would get in an hour. So anyway, I just encourage you to do that. So thank you for letting me take up a little bit of your time and stumble through my words and get through my notes. And, thank you for being patient with me. All right, you guys have a great evening, and I will see you on this coming Monday. Actually, I won't see. Wait, yeah, we got Manhood Mondays this Monday. So I'll see you guys then. All right, y'all take care.